Season's greetings to you all and Merry Christmas. My name is Toby Abiodun. I'm a writer and a spoken word poet, Nigeria's greatest slam poet. It feels good to be here on the show with you. So my story is an interesting story because I started poetry to impress a girl, and look how far we've come. I met this girl on Facebook. I loved what she wrote, and I liked her, so I wrote a poem to impress her. Now, whenever I read a poem now, I'm like, this is trash, but that was the journey for me, and it's been a really good experience. I've transitioned from someone who was very expressive on page to someone who is very adept at expressing themselves on the stage. And my stage experience began with an Abuja trip that I took to Transcorp Hilton. I experienced slam poetry for the first time, and that was where the hunger for performance came about. So you can basically see that my baptism into the performance arts was in Islam. So that's my background story. A Kairos moment. I've always believed in the importance of every single experience to the bigger picture. I can't really point, or I can't really um, isolate a particular experience that made me feel like, oh, this is the beginning of great things. I feel like for every step that I've had to take, for every decision I've had to make, for every poem that I've had to write, they were pointers to where the journey was taking me to. So for every slam that I've gone to and I've lost, every slam that I've gone to and I've won, those are like Kairos moments for me. So yeah, that's how it works for me. So my greatest inspiration has been to express. Whenever I write, I think about the expression. I think about what it is I'm trying to say. Contrary to popular belief, I don't really write to entertain. I write to express. I was raised an introverted person, shy, reclusive. So poetry has always been the medium through which I express myself. So yeah, I like to express. I like to challenge things. Poetry is the one way I know that I can challenge things, and I'll feel good about it. I can be non-confrontational, but with poetry, I get the leverage, I get the space, I get the tool to be confrontational. So that's how it works for me. I like to tell myself that um, poetry is the language with which I speak to my people, and how I desire that they speak back to me. So yeah, it's more about the expression, and then I'm very intentional about craft. How much of what I'm trying to say makes sense, and how good it sounds. It is important to strive to be better. It is important to strive for more, and that's because the human journey itself is an expression of being more. You're first a fetus, you're first a seed, an egg, then you become a fetus, and then you become a baby, and then you crawl, and then you walk, and then you can talk, and you begin to make decisions for yourself. That simply tells us that as humans, our lifelong journey, the entirety of our experience as humans is to actually grow. So growth is something that I'm always looking forward to. I love to evolve, and people who have followed my journey over the years must have noticed that I've evolved a lot of times. I used to be the poet who wants to do a lot of puns and wordplay, and I've been able to grow from that to storytelling, to imageries, to allusions. Just really touching into spaces that I feel like are important to be able to reach people. Now I'm more storytelling. Uh, I am more get this message than I used to be, than I would feel entertained with it, whilst at the same time also being entertaining with what I do. So growth is important because people who are coming behind you need to know that growth is possible. What's ahead for Toby? Honestly, I like to make plans, but I also like to let the universe, I like to let my life experiences guide me. So if I tell you that this is what is next for Toby, I have a feeling that I might tell you that I want to release an album, and in 2 years' time you won't get an album. I might tell you I want to release a book, and in 2 years I won't get a book. But one thing I know that is a given, that is for certain, is that Toby will keep getting better. Toby will keep doing really good work. And yes, next year I have my first show coming up. It's called Men Under Construction, and it's basically conversations around men and stripping bare the shame and the toxicity that comes with having male conversations. So it's really focused on men. There are different layers to it. We're launching with men under construction. It's going to be happening in June. I invite you all guys to come and watch me. 1 man stage performance. Toby like you've never seen before. Yeah, so that's what next. I might get married too soon. I might have children too soon. Yeah. I like to tell everyone the best poem I've ever written. Maybe not the best poem I've ever written. The poem that holds so much meaning to me is what makes a poem a poem. It is coming off the fact that there are certain definitions to what we do that are restrictive, which is to an extent I've been drifting towards long form writing, storytelling, non-fiction, creative non-fiction, and I realized that there is a lot of freedom that comes with being a long form writer compared to poetry. But yeah, what makes a poem remains my best poem, the one that speaks more to me, and that's because I wrote it at a point where I really doubted. I was really doubting my skill, doubting my talent, doubting my what I do, and so it was the poem really spoke to me, and really told me that what you're doing is what you're doing, and what you're doing is good work. So yeah, what makes a poem a poem? Yeah, truthfully, I am a strong believer and a strong advocate for your stories and your life experiences. A lot of times, creative people want to be creative. We want to tell stories that are all otherworldly, when in fact we should be telling our personal stories, our experiences in otherworldly craft, with an otherworldly craft in the most mad, crazy approach. So I believe in the influence of cultural background to what I write. So, for example, I grew up in Benin. I schooled in Delta, and those the experience of being a Benin boy and a Delta boy influenced my the need to write in pidgin, and the need to really use punchlines in the sense that cultural lines that have really cultural depth, that have it's almost like you're teaching people, but you're also telling them, it's like you're giving them insights. So that's the kind of experience I was raised in, and influenced by writing pidgin. So I was born a Christian. I've lived my life a Christian. I have a very strong belief in God. So when you go through my poems, when you go through my writing, you will see a lot of religious Christian metaphors in what I write. So a lot of the times we need to let these things really guide us, and that's how we build originality. That's how we build really good work. Because no, you're not going somewhere to look for something. It's here. You're just really harnessing it and using it for your own good. So yeah, cultural background very relevant to what I write and how I write. I've had a lot of influences because I'm not one who my mind roams a lot, my eyes roam a lot, so I'm always looking for people who are good at what they do, and seeking to pick things from them. So there's a long list of people that I've learned from. From Nigeria alone, I've learned from Ife. One of the things I learned from Ife is how to use your voice, how important it is to train your voice. Poetry, because it's spoken word poetry, you must avoid allowing your rendering or delivery sounding dry. So the need to really build your voice. I've learned from Titi Lokweshonoga how to be graceful with performance. I've learned from Dennis Fruman proper storytelling, how to really deliver write in a way that it's very it resonates with a lot of people. I've learned from Bosisiwe how to be raw and at the same time delicate. I've learned from Nkanteko Masinga. I've learned from Koleka Putuma. I've learned from Wasan Shah. I've learned from Nick Makoha, Chris Abani. The list is endless. Posha Olayiwola, which is one of my favorite slam poets. Joel Francois. Oh my God, storytelling. So a lot of people have shaped my journey as an artist. Darius Simpson. I know these guys are people who I cannot mention my journey without Graciano. How to be really adept with what you're doing, how to sit what you're doing, and really get it going. So those are people that there's a lot more, but those are the ones I can really remember. So one of the most challenging and life-changing experience I ever had as a spoken word poet was my trip to South Africa. And traveling to South Africa really opened up my eyes to why it's important to write culturally rooted stories, and how important it is for us to believe in these experiences that we have. Before then, I was a poet who was very keen on doing wordplay, be very entertaining, get the crowd to snap and cheer and stuff, which of course fantastic. But going to South Africa made me realize that the weight of poetry is in how much of the human experience is in it. Because poetry is something that humans turn to when they feel a thing. They don't turn to poetry to feel. They turn to poetry when they feel a thing. So they're often looking for allies, often looking for people who understand, who have experienced what they currently experience, whatever or what they've ever experienced. So they look to poetry when they need poetry. Not They don't look to poetry to need poetry. They look to poetry when they need poetry. So I realized that oftentimes we need South Africa taught me to be that kind of writer, to really write from a place of experience, to really write from a place of 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 experience, basically. As to anyone who wants to go into the performance poetry space, spoken word poetry space, it's a tough work. Um, I don't know. I feel like all reasons are valid, but oftentimes you have to know the foundation of what it is that you're doing. If you're the type that's crazy about going on stage so people can see you under the spotlight, it's a valid reason, but that might not be enough motivation for you to really be good at what you do. Oftentimes you find that being on stage is what you're happy about, being able to get those pictures what you're happy about. But some advice is love what you're doing, love the writing itself. It is the writing first before the performance. So love the writing. Once the writing is good, it is easy for you to really, stretch it onto the stage. That's one. Secondly, growth is imminent. Always seek to grow. Evolution is something that you must always have in mind. You don't want to remain static. You don't want to go obsolete. I've been doing spoken word poetry for, I started in 2016, I think, and this is 2023. That should be like 8 years if I'm good with my maths, 7 or 8 years. And dare I say that I've been able to stay relevant for those years. Why? Because I've always believed in the importance of evolution in an artist journey. So growth, evolution, love what you do for the right reasons. And yeah, keep reading and keep asking questions. Never be afraid to ask questions. That's the advice.